Okay. So today we are going to name that customer. Remember that the main session is being recorded, the breakout sessions are not, and that is your space to share everything with your teammates. Please rename yourself. Just put your number of your cohort in front of your name. And if you cannot recall what your cohort is, send me a message and I will figure it out. Or Anna can also help me on that, actually, because I'm presenting here. All right. So I want to take a moment to thank our sponsors that are providing in-kind services for you guys on graduation. And I would like to invite Robert from Ruby Porter to say hello.
There you go. Hello, everybody. I'm Robert with Ruby Porter Marketing Design. We're a marketing company that specializes in businesses that have a strong focus on digital marketing. So if you're looking to do most of your marketing online, we're the business for you. I was asked to kind of give a tip today. So my tip, and we actually kind of pre-talked about this earlier, was doing something is better than doing nothing. Everyone gets kind of head up and like focuses on doing something. We're already all doing that first step right now. We're going through this series here. And so doing this or doing something is better. First impressions are important, but no impression leaves you with nothing. You're not going to get anything done accomplished. So doing something, getting something out there. So that's my kind of tip for you guys.
Thank you so much, Robert. All right. And so I want to thank our cohort facilitators. Again, they have named already themselves. If you have any issues with your cohort assignment, please reach out. I want to also recognize our cohort mentors. Each one of them is a professional in digital marketing. So we have a very strong lead for each of you. Today, we are on week 3. And we're gonna name that customer. Get excited for graduation, guys, because we have about 9,000 plus in prizes so far. So what do you need to do to be eligible for this? You need to attend at least 8 sessions. If you cannot, you just watch the recording and send 3 takeaways that you got from that session. Complete 5 out of 7 homeworks or tasks, however you would like to call them. And then we are going to be doing a pitch competition. And we'll talk about the specifics of that later. But once you present, then you're eligible to tap into these different prizes that we have for you. We have in-kind services, consultations one-on-one with marketing professionals, but we also have some sets of products that are going to help you improve your online presence. This week's mentor hours is on Friday at noon with Jill, and Caroline gave us a time for a mentor hour with her next Thursday at 1 p.m. So if you still have questions about your market sizing and all of that, this is your time to get them answered. Today, we're just doing the overview right now. Jill's presentation will begin. It will be about 30 to 40 minutes. Then we go out on a Q&A. Then we go on a breakout session and we come back to see what the next steps are. With that, I want to introduce you to Jill Nelson, and allow me here to tell you a little bit more about her. Oh. It seems like I lost it, but here we go. Jill founded Ruby Receptionist in 2000.
Sorry, Connie. Sorry,
yeah.
You're sharing the name your customer screen. If you want to close your.
Sorry.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you. That's going to be your homework, but don't worry about it. Jill founded Ruby Receptionist, now called Ruby.com, in 2003. And she did it with her own funds. She started with $17,000. She did not have a background in technology or anything like that. She had a background in the receptionist aspect of things. So she brought all of that knowledge. I created a company that grew to 630 employees, 10,000 customers, and millions of dollars in revenue before she handed it in 2019. Ruby ended up holding a lot of records by being Oregon's fastest growing companies for 12 consecutive years, and was repeatedly named a top 5 places to work in the US by Fortune magazine. So guys, she has done something amazing. Currently, she was also named the Pacific Northwest 2017 Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and was named 2017 Oregon Technology Executive of the Year. So this is even more amazing when you realize that she didn't have a background in technology, and that whatever you set your mind to, you can make it happen. Today, Jill is passionate about helping others on their entrepreneurial journey as an active angel investor and advisor. She sits on the board of Ruby.com, TIE Oregon, and the Oregon Technology Business Center. She is also an executive partner at Elevate Capital Fund and is an operating advisor for Updata Partners. So with that, I think it's time for Jill to give you her magic.
Well, thank you so much, Ani, for that wonderful introduction. And like she mentioned, I'm very excited to share with you guys today. And also, like she mentioned, I am a scrappy entrepreneur. The fact that you guys are here learning, you're essentially 2 steps, probably 10 steps ahead of where I was, because I had this idea about a business that I was going to grow, and it was so unique and different than anything that there wasn't anyone who could possibly help me. And boy, was I wrong, because it took a few years of hard knocks before I was like, oh my gosh, I need to find some help and get some advising from people who know what they're doing. And so today, I'm going to share a few of the stories that I and all the people at Ruby and the journey of Ruby and the things that we learned along the way, and especially as it relates to customers, hopefully it can help you on your way. But like Ani mentioned, we had over 10,000 customers by the time that I retired, and that's a lot, but at some point you need a lot in order to keep the growth going. And so I'm going to start our conversation, and also I'd like to just say that I've tried to create this presentation to stir conversation. So if anyone has questions or wants to throw out an idea while we're talking, please put it in the chat. And Ani, if you can monitor that, just butt right in if you see a good question that we can tackle. I'm all for it. So my screen is showing. Can I get a thumbs up on that?
It is. Jill, do you want to click the little arrow on the right to close your right column of create PDF?
How does that look?
That's better. Awesome.
Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. All right. So I know you guys had last week with Caroline figuring out your TAM, your market and everything. And, I just want to start there, because I think we knew very early on, and it was a huge lesson that I learned, that part of what made Ruby successful was that the TAM was huge. There was so many customers that we could afford to miss on messaging and maybe, tackle one segment of the market, but there's plenty of others. Because when we started, we thought that our market was small businesses. Well, guess what? There are about 30 million small businesses out there. And so I think that was one of the things that helped us, but starting there sort of helped us start to figure out really who are our customers, what do they care about, and how can we reach them and help them understand that our service is for them. And maybe I should talk about what Ruby Receptionist is before going too much further. But Ruby today is a real person customer experience platform. So We started as a live virtual receptionist. So attorneys and financial planners and any small businesses whose relationship with their customers and their clients was really important to have a personal relationship, but perhaps those businesses were too small to afford a full-time receptionist. Our technology and our really friendly people allowed small businesses to be able to hire Ruby as a virtual real receptionist who could answer questions about their firm, transfer calls to the right person, but essentially at a fraction of the cost of a live receptionist. So many of you today who qualify as small businesses might go, well, that's great. I would never use that because I don't talk to my customers in real life, or I'm only, only digital. So, you technically would not be part of that 29.7 million that we should count. So, as we worked through and discovered our serviceable market, we understood that over time, there was about technically out of that 30 million, there was really only 3 million businesses that were, really, serviceable. But that again is still huge. 3 million businesses. We became a $60 million company on 10,000 businesses. So, just to get a fraction of them, even if we could get like 1% of our market, we could be a $1 billion company. And that became a very aspirational sort of rallying cry. But at the same time, that's just like, how do you reach 3 million businesses? That's crazy when you're a little tiny startup. And I liquidated my meager retirement savings to start Ruby. You cannot afford to go market to 3 million businesses. You got to really figure that out and figure out how to really, use your messaging and your marketing and your targeting to, the very best of your ability. Now, unfortunately for Ruby, we actually spent years and years and years just marketing, just thinking all small businesses were the same, thinking about them, that they had the same hopes, the same fears, the same value props. And it really was later that we figured out, actually an attorney is not the same as a roofing contractor. And in fact, an IP attorney has different needs and requirements from Ruby than say a personal injury attorney who needs those calls for revenue generation and new client creation. So we learned a lot along the way, and becoming really, really intimate with our customers became very, very important. But we started with understanding, really how big is our market. So hopefully you guys have that. And when we start our discussions, like in general, how big your market is, and if they all bought your product or service at the frequency that you think is possible, what size company you could be. And if that number is small, then, then you want to really capture a large share, not just that 1%. And that's where, you really start to think about your product and service drives who your customers are, not you yourself. Now let me get into that a little bit more. When we created Ruby, we had our basic features and benefits. Thinking about small businesses, we were like, okay, well, Ruby is very different from a traditional answering service and really different from a voicemail because we create great first impressions. You're going to pay more for Ruby than you are for an answering service, or certainly for a voicemail system, because it's real friendly people. Now, we thought that was great for all small businesses, but guess what? Only certain businesses care about that. And actually certain business owners of certain kinds of businesses care about that. And so that is, again, what we're getting into today. Flexibility with Ruby, because we're, virtual and we work from early in the morning till late at night, you can totally be wherever you want. We can get calls to you. It doesn't matter. Again, that matters more to a roofing contractor who might be out and about and on the job than perhaps a financial planner who is actually in the office over regular hours. Ruby has your back, get your calls done, get your business done. These are all key features, key benefits of using the Ruby features. And as we started talking about them, our businesses grew, our customers grew, but not just literally the same, the way, proportionally small businesses, all industries, we started to grow and we skewed heavily towards certain businesses. So by using those key features, I did not set out going, I'm going to create a business that attorneys love. In fact, it didn't really enter my mind. I had no formal relationship with attorneys, but guess what? Those features and benefits that our product provided were just like an attorney's dream. And so very quickly, attorneys became over 40% of our customers. And this is without us not even really marketing to them heavily. And so again, our products, our features defined who our customers were, not me. I mean, I had this general idea, but it was really those features that attracted certain types of businesses. And it wasn't until we had enough customers to really dig in and go, who are these people, that we discovered actually IT companies were like a close third, and financial planners were a clear second. And over time, as we adjusted our products and features and added new ones, construction and real estate became key customers as well. We also marketed ourselves as a value, like, it's $500 a month on average, instead of, the $3,000 or $4,000 you would pay for a full-time receptionist. Well, that may be a value to some businesses, but starting out, that $500 may be, out of reach to a small customer whose revenue is, at the beginning phases. So over time, we were able to learn that our key customer wasn't even those 3 million businesses. It was businesses in our top 10 industries that had actually been in business longer than you would expect. On average, somewhere between 7 and 8 years. And had revenue closer to the, above the 250K range annually, which is, sort of past that initial startup phase, but perhaps still on their journey of growth. And they had on average, a few employees. Our business was designed to, help everybody from a solo entrepreneur to, we had customers with hundreds of employees, but over time we were able to learn, like, hey, this is really who they are. And that was really helpful. And I know you have the awesome marketing sponsor here today, and other marketing mentors. And if you end up using them for help, and they have so much technology to help you really target the customer, knowing who that is and being able to target it can help you use your marketing dollars very efficiently. And we're going to even get into how you can help craft messaging based on who your customers are. So as you think about your customers, and I know you probably all have an idea of who your customers are, you've done the TAM exercises, but if you sort of backwards engineer it and think about your own key product benefits, who are they valuable to? Why? Ask the question, why? Why does your product or service work so well for the key customers that you have targeted? What is different about them that makes it so valuable? For example, attorneys. An attorney, we learned, on average, if they were the type of attorney who took calls from, hey, I'm just going to, Google who an attorney is in this category, and I'm going to call 3 people, and the first one that answers has my business. And for an attorney, one client could be, tens of thousands of dollars. Not missing new business opportunities was so important to them. It literally was tens of thousands of dollars. And conversely, we learned that missing a phone call for, for a salon, for example, perhaps there was more brand loyalty or there was more referrals. And because the revenue for a salon appointment was on average, tens of dollars instead of thousands of dollars, that same benefit wasn't as beneficial to that kind of small business, if that makes sense. And I think another thing, as you start to think about the psychographics of your customer, if you think about what drew you to your market, perhaps you are your own customer. Perhaps you developed a product or service because you were in an industry and you got frustrated with what was available. I know that's the story of so many. So perhaps you know intimately, the frustrations and solving problems for the customer that you have. But if you think about what really drew you to the market, you might find that it's a clue to understanding your customer and the affinity to them. So I encourage you to really think about your benefits and who they truly are attractive to, and that can help you segment your customer base further. So, again, over time, we took years and years and years to realize, gosh, we should really, really know who these customers are more intimately. But looking back, I think we could have gotten so much further had we done this earlier and not thought of a small business as one sort of unilateral thing, and really said, attorneys are different than contracting companies. And I'm going to use attorneys a lot because, again, they were over 40% of our customer base. So we started to really go down this road when we grew to a point where we need hundreds of new customers every month just to sort of break even, because when you have thousands of customers, you've got, canceling customers, and that's a whole nother story of getting to know your customers and why they cancel and how to get them to not cancel. But with marketing, we really started to look at our key segments: attorneys, financial, construction, and going beyond just where can we market to them? Oh, they have trade shows. Oh, they have publications. Oh, there's some influencers that, some advisors to the legal industry for small practices that people really flock to. That was sort of, 101. But when we started to go, okay, no, we really got to be efficient with our dollars. We really need to craft the message. So thinking about what we started to learn is that every specific industry had one or two key benefits that Ruby offered that was more important than the other ones. We also learned that they had unique language. So, for example, attorneys had clients, construction companies had jobs, financial planners also had clients, other companies had customers. So just even knowing what to call your customers, just using their language created trust between Ruby and our customers, and helped attract new business. But what we learned about legal is that missed calls were missed opportunities, and that intake, that new customer opportunity, became the most important thing. And being able to take care of current business so you could practice do your practice was a secondary message. So that was some key learnings about attorneys. Construction, interestingly, what we learned was that very busy, and juggling so many things, from being on top of a roof to entering creating estimates and that kind of thing. But again, we learned the language, jobs being one example. We also learned that construction industry in particular hated losing out to competition. So messaging around, win over, win out, or, hey, don't let the other guy get your business. We'll help you. That actually became a really successful message, because in the construction, and again, I'm generalizing, which is kind of what you do. I think when you create customer personas, it's based on data and using sort of the middle of the curve to help craft your messaging. It was an interesting sort of thing we learned about that particular industry, but productivity was key. It really was less about the first impression and just really wanting to take care of clients. Same thing with finance. What we learned, different than attorneys, and actually very different than accountants. So financial professionals really mostly cared about their high touch VIP experience. It took a lot to get a client. Generally didn't get a client from a cold call. Generally it was a referral or a nurtured relationship. And so it was really important for financial professionals to take care of the clients they had and treat them very specially. So that messaging was actually quite different than other industries. And accountants was, they're very much like, got to get the work done. Don't bother me in April, but, and so learning these things and the cycles and what mattered to them became very, very important. Another thing we learned about finance is that they needed to trust us. So they rarely came to us from an advertisement, but they would frequently come to us through an endorsement deal. So if a brokerage house endorsed us, or a key leader in the industry endorsed us, that meant a lot to that, or certainly a colleague, that meant a lot. So there's, again, some learnings about how your particular customer behaves, what they truly care about, the language they use, and how to reach them are all things to spend a little time discovering. And real estate also very, very different as well. For them, something we did not serve them well for years. And it wasn't until we started offering overnight 24-hour service and weekend service did real estate really come around to service, as you can imagine. That's important there. So going further, so those are things that we learned as we were trying to figure out how to attract and retain customers. Over time, our business was a monthly service. There was no long-term contracts, and everything was just, pay as you go. If we're not working out for you, you should go your own way. And so those learnings came about us really trying to dig in to both get more new customers and keep customers from leaving. And those were things that we could do on the fly. They were current issues. But as we grew, really, have limited resources, even as we grew, limited number of technology professionals, limited time, and big, big dreams about continuing to grow and continuing to add offerings to our customers. And so as we had to make really tough choices around what to invest in, and sometimes by the time we were, 12 years old, it was like, hundreds of thousands of dollars just to add a product feature, because our code got big and it just became that way. So we had to get even better about understanding our customers. And as we grew, we got to add UX professionals that were just passionate around understanding customers. And so our, quizzing the customers, interviewing them when we had a chance became, a part of everyday life. So we would do big customers or big surveys and get, hundreds of responses and be able to get information like this, and how they use Ruby and what they care about. But then as we grew, we realized we need to even understand them beyond their relationship with Ruby. So I'll pause right now. I know I'm kind of like going a million miles a minute, but we'll pause and just think to yourself about, what do you know about your customers? And this is going to be a discussion for the breakout session. So you can start thinking about, what are the characteristics that you know about the customers beyond the basic demographics? What might you actually intuitively or factually know? Because now we'll get into customer personas. And as you think about what you know about the customers, really going deeper to even what happens outside of your relationship with that customer, and why does that matter? It can be used for marketing messages. It can be used for product design. It can be used for customer service. It can even be used for just the language of how you communicate with your customers on a daily basis. But this little graph was shown to me not that long ago. I loved it because it really talked about being able to get at the heart of what your customers care about by putting these emotions and things into 4 quadrants. But But generally, if you think about your product or service answers either a fear, an aspiration, a frustration, or a want and need, it can help you think about your customers. So on the right hand side, we have positive, and on the upper hand up, we have future. And so an aspiration is futuristic, and it's also a great thing, versus a fear is also something that could never happen. It might happen way in the distant, but it's real. People don't contractors don't want to lose business to their clients. And frustrations though might be a real now thing, like, I can't get any work done because every time I try to, get something done, the phone rings. So these are things that your customers experience in real life. And as you think about your personas, you can kind of use this as a template to make that happen. But at Ruby, we ended up going deep on customer personas. And I have to caution here because Cautious Carol is not one customer. And in fact, when this was presented to me by UX, I actually said, this is not possible. I actually said, this information is wrong, because I, as the small business owner myself, who is a risk taker, who is not cautious, who does not share in these hopes and fears and frustrations and aspirations, thought that all small businesses were just like me. Well, no, in fact, my UX department said, no, this is an amalgamation of hundreds of customers that they did in-depth, interviews and surveys. And in fact, this was quite representative of a large section of our customer base, which was a huge learning experience because I just did not think that entrepreneurs and small business owners were cautious. Like that just did not add up. But in fact, many, especially in financial planning, and this particular person ran a wellness clinic, they got into business not because they were, a risk taker, but because they truly cared and truly wanted to provide the kind of care that caution and responsibility provided that they didn't necessarily get through their working for somebody else. So this is an example of a large swath of our customer base and got into beyond what they do when they're working with Ruby and into what do they do on a daily basis? What do they do when they're at work? What do they do when they're not at work? What's their living situation? What do they care about? What do they enjoy? Where do they go for their marketing? Who do they listen to? And even there's a Myers-Briggs personality assessment on this particular customer persona. But these customer personas were used not just for marketing, but specifically to help us decide what direction to go in our product development and what we should be focused on. And this is a second section of the personas. And again, you'll see that until you get to needs, it has very little to do with Ruby and phones. It really has to do with who this person is, what do they care about, and what they hope to do with their business and why they did it in the first place. And so this is just another example of sort of getting to know the customer to help your business be successful. And this is, again, the last section of that persona. And there's no limit to how far you can go getting to know your customers. So I'm going to pause right now because I know we have a lot to talk about in the break room around who you are and who your customers are. But I would love to pause and have a little room for questions if I time that correctly before we do that breakout.
Awesome. Thank you, Jill. This is so great so far. Somebody wrote me a comment and I just wanted to bring it out because I think that might be relevant for everybody else. The customers are usually schools and youth organizations.
Okay.
And she feels that everybody in these locations are overwhelmed, so she's not getting a lot of responses. What would you recommend her to do in that case?
Okay, and I probably could, any of the marketing professionals can jump in here. That can be a huge challenge. And I think understanding what your customers are schools, people are overwhelmed, but do you know who they look to for help? Do you know, where they go? What do they do for relaxation? And what is the thing, knowing what to say to them to get their attention is another thing. Now, so whether it's you're reaching them via phone or you're reaching them via email, you're reaching them via social media, you're reaching out to them through LinkedIn, what are those things? So this, I think, doing this exercise of getting to know your customer can actually help you answer the questions to then craft a strategy. So I don't have an answer for you, but if you could understand, get to one of them to understand what would it take for someone to be able to listen, perhaps thinking about your product or service, they can see that maybe, yes, it would make them less overwhelmed, but the idea of engaging them is so overwhelming that it just seems like too much trouble. We had that issue with contractors, and we came up with a message, and it was like, hey, your customer your customer got your voicemail and went with the other guy. In 15 minutes, you could be up and running with a real receptionist. And so we crafted a message around simple, like literally take 5 minutes and we'll fix this one big pain point you have. And so if that is the reason that and a busy person, you can't break through, because even if they're seeing their message, it just seems so overwhelming, perhaps, a simple message. But again, I would encourage you to get to know as much as you possibly can first around who these people are and what they truly care about. What would be the thing they care about so much that they're willing to add it to their already busy day.
Awesome. And did you do this with a specific channel of communication when you reach out to these contractors?
Yes. So interestingly, you marketers might laugh, but direct mail, because contractors were not at their computer all day, and they also got what do you call them, like the legal notices where very important notices came in the mail. When you put, what do you call it when you put a home and it has like a liens and those kinds of things. So it's really important for contractors to go through their mail. And so interestingly, a direct mail postcard with a big message worked very well for them versus other industries that perhaps didn't look at their mail as carefully and perhaps were on their computer more frequently.
Awesome. That's great. Somebody here asked, how do they make customer personas? You will have a template to work on that. And then on mentor hours this Friday, you can fine tune what you have worked on so far. That homework should already be on the Facebook group, and you will get an email with that as well. Somebody's starting their customer interviews, and she wonders if there are any really important questions that she needs to ask. She or he, I didn't really write the name.
Yes, okay. So there's a lot of important questions to ask, but really, what keeps you up at night, really getting to those fears, frustrations, wants and needs and aspirations. I think any questions that help you get there, whether it's, if you could, make 3 problems go away, where do you hope to be in 5 years? Really just getting to the heart of what truly are the emotions and around somebody's motivations.
Great. And then
beyond the basics of like knowing who they are, what do they do? Where do they go for their, their content essentially is key.
Very good. And we can also send out a few examples of these questions that you can ask. Somebody here mentioned, you mentioned endorsements. How did you initiate that? Were endorsements by current customers?
Yes, yeah. So it was another, interesting thing that we offered all kinds of incentives to customers that referred, and it just really didn't make a difference. Customers that loved us referred for free, and but it's really important if you can get a customer to say the same message that you would have said yourself in a room of colleagues to that customer, like super powerful. So if you have good relationships with your customers and they are already referring, asking them, and being very generous with a thank you rather than a financial incentive is a great thing. I think customer reviews are super important if you're digital, but you saying you're great is very different than a customer saying you're great. And I think we all know that. We probably all buy that way, whether we're looking online. But yeah, you can find out like what happened to us is we kind of worked backwards, and we found, we noticed, certain people were really referring us more frequently than others. And then we'd reach out to them to thank them and get to know them, and found out, hey, in fact, they were very, very influential and they were, consultants to an industry, and whatever they said, their customers hopped to. And so we offer, referral agreements there, but mostly it was really about getting to know them and making them feel like you're really making a difference for us, and we really appreciate you. And it was a win-win for them, and they knew that we would take, we took good care of all customers, but they knew they had a direct line. They had our attention. But you can reach out, you can use influencer groups, you can, research who are the experts in your industry, and trying to forge relationships with them, I think is a super effective, cost-efficient way to go.
Awesome. So I think we can continue with the presentations, and then we will pick back up on the questions. Does that sound good?
That is the presentation.
Perfect. I thought you took a break to answer questions, but we have questions. Absolutely.
Okay.
So somebody says that they get some repeat business, I mean,
Yes.
but they really rely a lot on first-time guests who are not likely to return.
Yeah.
So how can they collect information for prospective guests and, choose the right marketing channels?
Yeah. Ron, can you just briefly describe your business in the chat, and I'll is it retail? Is it
hotelier?
A hotel?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so there are technical ways to get customer information, and then there are manual ways. I do think everything from on the technical side, your credit card provider often can provide information about your customers in retrospect, registration, making sure everyone opts in for the ability to be communicated with. But I imagine at multiple touch points, there's opportunities to get information in a seamless way that doesn't feel intrusive to the hotel experience. Whether it's, logging in, for the Wi-Fi, collection for prospective guests and correct marketing channels. So what I would do there is if you can figure out whether, through observation or information that you have, who is it that's coming to your hotel, and creating personas from there, and then you can market to those customer groups that fit those same personas. So for example, are you in a recreational area? Is it outdoor enthusiast? Is it city? Is it gender specific? Is it, based on who you know is coming to the hotel already. Are those your target customers? What do you know about them? And you can use them to have any of these wonderful, the marketing sponsors or perhaps the mentors help you figure out how to get to those, because there's some amazing ways out there to use your marketing dollars very effectively to get just to them. If that makes sense. Is that what you were getting at, or? Can't hear you.
All right. How do you get a new customer or a prospective customer to open up to questions about their fears?
Yeah. It's, taking the time to talk to a customer when you can create a relationship. It's really very few, especially, very few people get asked that. People thirst for connection, and saying something, what keeps you up at night or what do you worry about is probably less intrusive than what is your deepest, darkest fear. But what keeps you up at night is probably a good question. Taking advantage of that opportunity, whether it's through customer service or however you engage with your customers. When we would go to trade shows, we had an amazing representative there, and they just became friends with people in the industry and would talk with them about whatever, and in the process learned so much about especially customers who weren't using us, why they weren't using us, and what their fears and frustrations were. Like a big fear for Ruby was we battled the the answering service that was impersonal, not helpful. Someone who truly cared about their customers was very nervous about handing it over to somebody that they didn't know. So those are the kinds of fears that became really, really helpful for us. But in our experience, if you have the time and you have those opportunities to take a little time to get to know the customer, and record that and note that, it can pay off. And you'll find as you go about your day now, thinking that small chit chat is wasted time, that in fact it can be great research.
All right. Somebody here says my customer base right now is also all small businesses.
Oh, cool. I know that.
Which is overwhelming, and it's not really working because it's too broad.
Yeah.
You mentioned lawyers were a big client base for Ruby. Did you identify other client traits that were a trend other than just the industry?
Yeah. So, actually a lot of businesses love the idea of Ruby. We were super economical to some businesses, and we were completely not cost effective for other businesses. So that became a really key component. So this huge, market of salons and service providers that provided a service for under $100, until we added chat and some other features, we didn't have anything for them. And so we had to essentially specifically target the customers that work best. And yes, trying to boil the ocean with the entire small business market is so hard. But if you look at your customers, you probably can, allocate them to, eyeball them and put them in an industry. Maybe you even have some size information, but every industry has trade associations. Every industry has influencers. And if you can pick just the best one, and you only have limited dollars and you haven't targeted the best industry, it's way easier to start there. And that is for a long time, we used some general Google advertisements, but mainly only spent marketing dollars on attorneys, because there was only 75,000 solo attorneys, and that was so much easier to reach.
When you started your direct mail campaign to contractors, what kind of response rate did you get?
that's a good question, because as we got better at the technology, we could actually see people that got the mailer that actually then did visit the web landing page. And so that was a much higher response rate. It's still in the single digits. But when I first did mailers, essentially every 500 mail pieces got us one customer. So not quite a response rate, but an actual like, so I'm guessing, you know, it was probably still that times 20. So I don't know, maybe what is that? A 2 to 5% response rate? Not big. Less than you would think. Oh, thank you. All these marketing professionals on there can probably answer that question way better than me.
Well, it sounds like you did better than the typical 0.5 to 2%.
Yeah.
So that's awesome.
Yeah. I'm seeing a share. I think that's great. Great stuff.
Awesome. So far, these are all the questions we have. I wonder, Jill, if it will be okay with you to go over the part of the homework where they develop their customers' personas, just in case they have any questions beforehand.
That's great. And I just would like to also say too that it's a journey, and you know, this is what we learned over 15 years that I was there. Like it continued to surprise us and learn and insights. And so if you know enough to get going, to be able to be effective with your marketing or your messaging, your targeting, and even your customer service and your product design, that's great. And just never stop learning. And that, so I think I'll echo Robert's earlier message, is something is better than nothing. So, all right. So homework, do you have that screen on?
Yes, let me share it right over here. Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna do 2 exercises in the homework. I think for the breakout, it's really just talking and sharing about who your customers are and what you might know about them so far. But when you have time over the next week, take the time to do your customer persona segments and use as many customers as you know. If you talk to one, you may be very skewed. I think that's the other caution is be careful with small amounts of data that could skew you in the wrong direction and send you down an ineffective road. B2C, how can we learn where our customers get content for B2C? I saw that, and perhaps I'm going to invite the Robert and others to offer insight too around where you get data. But that is a good point. There's also data out there that you can learn. Other companies have done surveys. For example, American City Business Journals had done this huge, like, psychographic survey around thousands of small businesses that they had published that we were able to use to get this information. Same thing with some law publishing groups had done the state of the solo attorney and had done extensive research around their hopes and fears. So there is data out there, possibly for your customer too, that a very experienced large company spent a lot of money to get, that is hopefully at your fingertips as well. But take the time to think about, like, who are your customers, the basic demographics, where they go for their content, their media, who, you know, what brands do they care about, their hopes, fears, aspirations, the whole the quadrant there. Think about their age, really anything that, even if you think it might not pertain to your business, what your customer does on a daily basis going throughout the week can help you fill this out. So it can be a work in process. It does not, there's no finish line here. As you learn more and even grow your customers and perhaps, you know, diversify and add a different product or service, perhaps your customer changes. But hopefully this worksheet is self-explanatory, but we'll go to the next. Oh, we got a class dedicated to that. All right, so the next page here, hopefully this is all self-explanatory. So quotes, I saw that. I've not seen that, but that's a great idea, like words to live by. I like the common words or expressions. For example, I use the customer example. So attorneys had clients, contractors had jobs, and software companies had customers. So what are some other lingo or language? We had a whole biography or a glossary for our receptionists for attorneys, just so we could intake forms instead of like new customer inquiries. Intake forms was an attorney thing. So that became really important for authenticity. And now we'll keep going to the fun stuff, is crafting your marketing messaging. So if you take, for each of your product or service, come up with a fear, an aspiration, a frustration, or want and need that your product or service solves. So we're gonna use Ruby as an example, and Ani, if you don't mind continuing to scroll down. So for example, fear, missing new business. And so we came up with this, marketing message: you never get a second chance to make a great first impression. Same thing with aspiration. Growing your business with Ruby was a very aspirational message. And interesting that we use that so much, we realized that we didn't have sort of a want and need here and now message use as much as we did aspiration, and we needed to get more tactical, on the here and now. And the person who mentioned, their client was a school being really busy, if you're busy, you're not thinking about aspirations, you're thinking about frustrations and wants and needs. You're thinking about the here and now. So it became important that we had messaging around that as well. So hopefully this all makes sense. If you think about your want and need, what's a marketing message, and then you can so do that, and then you can go even one step further, and you can take that same message and craft it in the language of your customer. So we'll just use Ruby again as an example. The great first impression, that was a key benefit. Ruby gave great first impression. So depending on our customer, we had a different personality with that exact same message. So enhance your client relationships with exceptional customer service was a very buttoned up message versus, wow your callers with Ruby. So you can take that same value prop and craft it into different messaging to match the personality of your customers. Hopefully that all makes sense too. And that is the challenge.
I don't know if I took it out before you were done.
No, that's it.
All right. I see a lot of questions here about SEO. Guys, we have 2 entire sessions that are dedicated to that. One is going to be led by Gabriel Shields, one of your mentors over here. And the other one is going to be led by Darren, who is our marketing lead here at RAIN. So save your questions. You can send them to me on an email too. I have been copying them all. But for now, we're going to focus on our client. And I do have another question that I think is very interesting, but it is 10 o'clock, so we kind of need to get moving on the breakout session. And when we come back, we are going to ask these other questions. So I think that right now, Nate, if you could please take us to our breakout rooms.
Can you remind us, Ani, what we're doing in the breakouts other than introductions?
Yes, I apologize for that. Let me pull this up over here. Thank you for keeping me.
And while you're doing that, I'll just encourage you. I know it's very okay, how do I get to those customers? And this may seem like a step that is frustrating because you're doing the work, and even if you figure out it, it's like, okay, well, how do I reach them? But hey, 2 more sessions to learn all of that. So I would encourage you to just be in the moment and think about your customer, and not worry about how to reach them yet, as Ani mentioned.
Okay, so we're gonna do something very simple. Introduce yourself, briefly describe your business, and briefly describe your customer. Please remember that there are quite a few people in your breakout rooms, so keep it short and sweet, and that way we can share and get to know each other a little bit more.
Ani, and then we're going to aim to come back at 10:20, correct?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, hey, anybody watching the recording? Everybody is in breakout rooms, which are not recorded during this time, but we'll come back in about 18 minutes and bring everybody back here into the main session. Hi there. Felice, would you like to be in a breakout room?
Yes, please. I'm number 4.
In breakout room 4? Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome.
My battery died.
Okay, no problem. I'll get you there. Just a second.
Thank you.
I think we all came back early.
Hey, Nate, we heard we were getting kicked out, so we came back. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Perfect.
Okay, good. We wondered whether we may have jumped the gun a little bit, but
No,
Hey, we didn't get to everybody in our group. I imagine that's true for other groups too. But I think there's like 5 or 6 people that didn't get to speak and introduce themselves.
oh, okay.
We might have taken a little bit too much time on everyone's intro, but
Note to self.
that was a helpful exercise. Get to know who's in our cohort.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Very interesting.
We covered
The variety is quite amazing, you know?
Yeah, we got through 9 people, but we probably had 5 or 6 remaining.
Okay, so cool. Good.
You're right, Rick. The diversity is phenomenal, right? You hear all
That's
these-
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's people doing all kinds of different things, and it's just. I mean, there must be something in the human spirit that's like, hey, I gotta figure out how to create a business. It's like something. It's like an urge that can't be stopped. But that's so great because this is what makes America wonderful in many ways, and people out there creating projects, creating jobs, creating money that helps the community. All of that is just absolutely so important to our health. So thanks everybody who's doing all those great things.
Okay, everyone, so we're back. I don't know if Jill is still around. I don't know what you were talking about, so I just jump right in so that so that we can close this session today. I'm gonna share my screen to give you guys a few reminders. All right, so mentor hours this week on Friday at noon. Jill is gonna be around to answer all of the questions that you have about your customer discovery process. If you cannot attend the live session, you can send questions ahead of time so we can have them answered. And Caroline's mentor hour is going to be next Thursday, the 21st at 1 p.m. All of these are for 1 hour. You're not required to attend, but we do recommend that you do because it is a great way to, get more insights on your specific business.
I want to say something real quick, Ani, about my mentor session. Those of you planning on coming to that, I would love it to be a working session. So if there's 1 or 2 businesses who would like to attempt to fill out their TAM Samsung worksheet first, and then we can work through it. And you're not going to necessarily get all the percentages correct, right? We still have to do a little bit deeper diving on that, but you can get a good representation of it. And then we can talk through it together as a group because others will learn watching us fill 1 out or 2 out. So you don't have to reach out to me ahead of time. Just show up with your worksheet filled out and we can work through it together.
Awesome. Then, oh my gosh, going too fast. Next week, we are gonna start selling. We have Kelly Matthews. She is an instructor at OSU. She teaches PR, and she also has her own consulting company. And she's gonna be talking about selling on social media, like Facebook, and Instagram, and anything else that you guys can think of that is relevant. So if there is a specific social media platform or anything like that you would like to take a deeper dive in, let us know, because this can also be something that we can use for our cohort selection on week 9. So just keep that in mind. We have, different sessions catered to different things. I know you guys have a lot of questions about SEO. If you want that session on the 9th to be about SEO after we see these other 2, let us know, because we want to make this program something that's valuable to you, and our ears are open. Then, does anybody have any questions?
Bonnie, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Kelly coming in? Because I know Kelly's an expert in Twitter and Facebook in particular and Instagram. Is she coming in already with these, the platforms selected, or are we going to tell her which ones we want her to cover?
We talked about covering essentially Facebook and Instagram, but I can actually talk to her a little bit more to learn specifics about it and see about that.
Okay, because maybe that's because I'm seeing a lot of people saying like TikTok and Pinterest, like maybe that's one of the cohort choices.
Okay.
But maybe just give Kelly the heads up that some folks might ask questions about TikTok, Pinterest, and Twitter. Kelly and I, by the way, we started doing social media boot camps 13 years ago in Eugene. People would fly to Eugene for 3-day weekend of a social media boot camp that we did. So she's really wicked smart at this topic area. So definitely come prepared and bring questions.
Awesome. That's it. If you guys would like to hang around, we have 3 more minutes. So if you have questions right now, we can answer them.
I also want to give a big shout out to Jill. Thank you again for joining us and inspiring us. Is she still on?
I'm here. It was absolutely my pleasure, and congrats to all of you for the journey that you're on. It's so great to see so many of you here.
Great.
Jill, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jill. Awesome.
My pleasure. See you next Friday, or see you Friday maybe. Bye.
You're getting a lot of love in the chat, Jill.
Thank you, Jill. Appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, I would like to really see us find out what people need within our group, like some kind of a Facebook page where people could say what they're doing and what they need in their launching or continuing stages.
Darren,
If only we had a Facebook group, Kathy. We do have that Facebook group already. And
I know, but see, we were told you're not supposed to be promoting your own ideas or business there, and that kind of defeats the idea of having the Facebook group, in my opinion.
so let me chime in on that. So because this is a learning setting, you're welcome to share links to your company, to share, hey, I'm launching this new product. What do you guys think of it? To seek advice around your campaigns and your products and services, but not to say, hey, I'm selling this, click here, buy here. That is not what this group is for. Does that make sense, Kathy?
Yeah, but see, I'm not interested in selling anything. I'm interested in providing several levels of services in various ways. And so I kind of feel a little bit squelched in my creative spirit by having this kind of dictated to us about the use of Facebook.
No, this is just our Facebook group. You can do anything you want on Facebook, your own Facebook. Kathy, why don't you email me? Let me put my email in the chat.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
And then email me and we can talk offline more directly so that we can make sure we're understanding. Does anybody else have questions about the Facebook group? Maybe Darren, can you put the link in the chat again for folks who haven't joined to be able to share and talk about what you're working on? Also would be cool is, you know, if you have campaigns that you're testing out, be like, hey, I tested out a Google ad, or I tested out a couple posts on Twitter, and here's what worked, here's what didn't work. We want to hear from you guys what's working and what you're doing and what's not working, so we can all learn from each other.
I have a question. How I can be a friend on Facebook? I think you guys said share a link, but what kind of link I have to share?
Darren just put the link in the chat to our Facebook group for this RAINmaker accelerator.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure you join that.
yeah, so that Facebook group is really just only people who are accepted into that group are the folks that are in our RAINmaker cohort. So everything we share there is just within the participants of this group. And we really want people to be active on there. You know, sort of what Kathy was asking before about, you know, feeling squashed. We really aren't trying to limit anything. The only thing we're trying to limit is you saying, you know, buy this thing, click here and buy it. And so other than that, we want people to express ideas and questions, and we want this to be a great resource for everyone to learn from.
Thanks, Darren.
And if you guys want to do a follow train so that you can follow each other on social media, we can make a post about that. You know, like there is no reason why you guys could not be connected in other ways, actually, that is supporting each other. So keep that in mind. Like we're not telling you cannot share anything about your business. It's just be mindful that the sales are outside of this. But everything else, we're here, and this is a community, and the idea is to all be connected, support each other, and see each other grow, right?
Exactly. Well said.
Maybe we could make a separate group. It's a pitch page so that our RAIN entrepreneurs can kind of have an outlet that they can pitch their products on, separate from the knowledge-based stuff.
Yeah, I think instead of a separate page, it would just be a post within it. We could just do one post that says, hey, throw your pitch down here in this post. And it would have, 100 comments on it. And each comment would be people's.
That's a great idea.
That's great.
A great idea.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. Evolving group. Awesome. Well, Ani, I'll let you close it out.
Yes, so if you guys need to head out, all good. I will send out an email with the homework today. The recording, I know a lot of you asked me for the recording. Darren will let us know when it's ready. We did share last week the Zoom link for you to see the recording without any edits or anything like that. So that is available if you don't want to wait until the video is processed. And bring your questions for Friday on mentor hours. Take a stab at developing your customer personas. Don't be afraid, like, oh, it's going to be wrong, whatever. Customer discovery is a process. It takes time, and it's something that you will do as long as you have your business, because needs change. So do fears and things like that, okay? So if you want to stay around and network for a bit, we're here. If you need to head out, it's all good. You have a great day, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you, Ani, for facilitating. I had a quick question for Caroline. You did mention that on your mentor hours next 21st October, you're okay with some companies filling up the worksheet for Tam, Som, and Sam. Do you think you could have that worksheet uploaded under the guide so that we could fill them up beforehand, or are you planning to email them, or how do we get it?
That is already there. It's already on your email as well. It is linked to your homework too. So you guys have all that already.
Darren, can you share your screen and show the Facebook page to show people where they can find these guides on the
I need permission to share, and I will do that. Yeah.
Oh, you do? Okay. Let's do that. Oh, I can't do it. So
I'm good. It's working for me.
Got it.
Thanks, Nate. Okay, I was going to make a post about pitching, but hey everyone, this is our Facebook group right here. And so if you click on guides right here, you have all this data. So there's the worksheets for everything. There's replays. It's all right here in the guides section. So if you're looking for the Sim Sam Som worksheet, that would be here. Let me click on the for more. Okay, so there's the Tam Sam Som worksheet. Click right there, and you can download that.
awesome.
The downloadable spreadsheet.
Great. How many people are in the Facebook group now?
I think right now we have 90. Let me just check. It's right here. It'll tell me. We have 81 members.
Okay, so that's about the size of our group. So hopefully everybody on this call has joined.
It's the guide section. And then of course the discussion section is where you can make all kinds of posts and conversations here to the group. So introduce yourself here. You can post links to your business here. Yeah, this is where we want to be active and get to know each other.
Awesome. And thank you, Anna. If anybody wants the Tam Sam Som sheet in Spanish or any of the other homework assignments, please reach out to Anna and she will be more than happy to translate that for you. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. And yes, great job, Ani, being our fearless leader here. Good to see you all. Hopefully I'll see you on Thursday of next week for mentor hours and also at the next session on Wednesday of next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Gracias, Ana. Ani.
Chao, Celiflora. La extrañamos en el breakout session.
Me pusieron en otro cuarto. Ok, gracias. Hasta luego.
Hasta luego. All right, so does anybody have any questions that you would like answered right now, or we can all head out too? All right, well, I think we can stop the recording and log off.
All right. See you, Ani.
Bye, thank
Great
you.
job.